לשנות ולשפר ולתקן. הניסיון הזה הוא לא פשוט כזה, הוא רק נראה תמים, נחת על הימים.
My name is Tzvi Hersh Weinreb, and there's a reason why I'm telling you my name. The reason has to do with a story I'd like to tell you, which illustrates to me, and I hope to you, exactly what is meant by today we can. Today you can. I'm going back a number of years, 42 years to be exact. I was younger then, and I was at a crossroads in my life. I had just finished my doctorate in psychology. Some years before that, I had received my smicha, my rabbinical ordination. I was the father of 3 young children. And I was at a crossroads in many ways. I wasn't sure about a career. I had at least 2 big options: do something in Jewish communal service in the rabbinate and Jewish education, or do something in the field of mental health, the psychology, counseling. I was confused by the direction in which I wanted to raise my children, which schools to send them to, what type of attitude I should take as a father. I was at a crossroads in my relationship with my wife. How could I do better? How could we get closer? How could we build a marriage that at that point had already lasted 6 or 7 years? How could we make it into a marriage that would last 50 or 60 years? And I also had doubts about faith, doubts about religion, the age-old question of why do bad things happen to good people plagued me, not in a philosophical way, but in a very deep personal way. And I didn't know to whom to turn to get direction, to get guidance, to get answers. I had a friend, since passed away. His name was Naftali Berg, may his memory be blessed. And he encouraged me to seek out the counsel of his Rebbe, his Hasidic Rebbe, because he was a Chassid. He was a Chassid of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, the master of Chabad, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, whose 21st yahrzeit was today, the 3rd day of Tammuz, and who knew a lot about today we can, because he accomplished arguably more than any single Jew accomplished in the years post-Holocaust. And my friend Naftali urged me to seek out the guidance of the great Lubavitcher Rebbe. But I was reluctant to do so. I was not a follower of any Hasidic Rebbe. I was, and maybe still am, a bit of a skeptic. I don't like taking advice from other people. I like to make my own decisions. But here I was just confounded, confused. I just didn't know where to turn. So he told me that at that point in time, the Rebbe was receiving occasionally telephone calls. You didn't have to go. We were living then in Maryland. You didn't have to go all the way driving to New York to see the Rebbe in Brooklyn. You could call him by phone several nights a week, but his hours were his hours, from 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Call him then, Naftali urged me. So one night I decided to do it. I was confused, possibly to the point of depression. So almost out of desperation, I called him up. His secretary answered the phone and asked me, the whole conversation took place in Yiddish, but I'll tell it over to you only in English. In Yiddish, it kind of is a little more poignant. The secretary answered the phone and said, "Who is speaking? Who's on the line?" And I had decided I wasn't going to tell him my name. I would tell him my problems, but I didn't want to identify myself. So I said, a Jew from Maryland. That's where we were living. A Jew from Maryland. So he said, all right, fine, a Jew from Maryland. What do you want? So I told him what I just told you, maybe a little more elaborately. My problems, my questions, my religious doubts, my personal doubts, my career choices, my role as a parent, my role as a husband, my role as a son. My parents were still alive then. The Rebbe was in the background, and I could hear his voice clearly. I can still hear it now. The Rebbe said, who's speaking? And the secretary said, he says he's a Jew from Maryland. So the Rebbe said, fine. What does he want? So the secretary repeated briefly what he wants. So the Rebbe said, remember, my name is Tzvi Hersh Weinreb. I am a psychologist, and I try to be a Torah scholar. The Rebbe didn't know that. He didn't know who was calling. He only knew that a Jew from Maryland was calling. And so the Rebbe said, well, if that's the case, tell this Jew from Maryland that he should speak to a young man in Maryland named Weinreb. Tell him that that young man is very capable. He's trained as a psychologist, and he is a Ben Torah. He's a Torah scholar. It blew my mind, to say the least. I was stunned, and I gasped and said to the secretary, but I am Weinreb. The secretary was more mind-blown than I was. The secretary said nothing. He was in shock. And you could hear the Rebbe, I don't know if you could hear impatience, but I heard impatience. The Rebbe was a busy man, and the secretary was just standing there shocked on the telephone, or sitting there perhaps, I didn't see it. So the Rebbe said, no, what is he saying? So the secretary said to the Rebbe, he says that he's the Weinreb. Er is der Weinreb. He is the Weinreb. So the Rebbe was not blown away, and he was not shocked. He responded instantly. He said, if that's the case, he should be fully aware, soll wissen sein, he should be aware that sometimes you must talk to yourself. That was the Rebbe's message. What I heard, and I hear it, I can't say every day, but certainly several times a week, for the past 42 years, sometimes you must talk to yourself. It starts with you. Do not look to someone else. You can do it. I heard many things in that brief message. Sometimes you must talk to yourself. Well, the main thing I heard is that there is a sin that's not listed on the list of sins. It's the sin of false modesty. It's the sin of thinking, who am I? Just old Heshi Weinreb. I can't change the world. I can't accomplish much. I'm not wealthy. I'm not brilliant. It's false modesty. And that false modesty frustrates the mission of every Jew. Every Jew has the mission of being a light unto the nations. Every Jew has the mission of mastering the entire Torah. Every Jew has the mission of caring for every sick person and every poverty-stricken person in the world. That's the mission of the Jewish people. But what's in our way is false modesty. And the Rebbe was teaching me then, with all your problems, philosophical problems, career problems, family problems, etc., the answer lies within you. You must make a decision. You must be courageous. You must overcome false modesty. Never become arrogant. Never become self-centered. That's going too far. But never put yourself down. Realize that you can do it, and you can do it today. That is the message that I think we need to hear at this wonderful, wonderful event that was initiated by Rabbi Goldstein and other people who said, we can do it and we can do it today. We can bring 5,000 people to the Sinai and Daba. And all I can say is we can do and we must do much more. But the lesson is we can do it, we must do it, and we can do it beginning today. Thank you, and Shavua Tov.